And I take this very, very seriously.
So what should happen when someone brings a weapon into a hospital?
Well, first of all, we have been working in particular with the BC Nurses Union, and we've placed relational security officers, these are security professionals with specific training in high-risk emergency rooms throughout and hospitals throughout British Columbia. We are also working to, there's one facility here in BC already that's using weapons detection technology, but we're investigating AI technologies that can be used to help screen for weapons.
Osborne says they're taking action to minimize wait lists, such as hiring more staff and building new hospitals. And there's some optimism from firefighters and local authorities as crews battle wildfires in opposite corners of British Columbia heading into this weekend. So in Squamish, firefighters say an out-of-control wildfire saw minimal growth on Thursday. The Dryden Creek wildfire, it's an estimated 59.5 hectares in size. 200 properties are still on evacuation alert. BC Wildfire says firefighters have had unexpected help due to the area's unique network of trails.
Our crews were able to use a mountain bike trail to go up the hill, so it reduced the exposure to danger tree falling, trail cutting, and then also just it's created a safe path to just move up the mountain and given us efficiency getting a hose up this southeast flank.
RCMP are asking anyone with information on how that fire started to contact them. Meanwhile, the Pocket Knife Creek wildfire in the northeast is BC's biggest wildfire right now at more than 1,500 square kilometers. BC Wildfire says more anticipated rain could help tackle those flames this weekend. Merritt RCMP are investigating an early morning fire at the Comfort Inn and Suites Hotel. Police say all occupants were safely evacuated, but a significant portion of the building was engulfed and there is a lot of damage. Investigators will be at the scene today gathering evidence, and police are asking anyone with information to reach out to them. The Abbotsford Canucks are set to open the Calder Cup Finals on the road against the Charlotte Checkers later today. It's the first time in franchise history the team are in the finals, and even though Game 1 isn't here, one fan and local businessman say community excitement is high.
Energy the whole playoffs as we progressed to each round was just, it's awesome. Like, I have to stay here slinging hot dogs most of the time, but I'll sneak out and I'll watch the game, but I also look around frontwards and backwards all around the arena to see the crowd and to see the smiles on the people's faces. And the community has just exploded.
He is also known as the Hot Dog King in Abbotsford. And there's also going to be watch parties that are starting tonight. So that game is Game 1, starting at 4 p.m. Pacific. So coming up shortly. And that's what we have for you so far. I'm Vineet Brach. Stay with us. BC Today is coming up next.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. This weekend, G7 leaders will gather in Alberta amid a slew of diplomatic tensions, from Israel's attack on Iranian nuclear sites and now apparent retaliation from Iran, as well as calls to revoke Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's invitation and Donald Trump. What can the G7 leaders actually accomplish? What do you think they need to accomplish? That's first. After 12:30, Vancouver comedian Ivan Decker will be here to talk about how fatherhood has changed him. We'd love to hear from you too. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. G7 leaders are preparing to meet in Kananaskis, Alberta, starting on Sunday. The agenda is likely to shift. Now, Israel strikes on Iran, targeting Iran's nuclear sites and killing Iranian military leaders, now expected to take center stage. And right now, there is breaking news. CBC reporting that Iran has targeted Israel. Israeli emergency services report that 7 have been injured after an Iranian strike. Well, we're asking you now, what can be accomplished during this G7 summit in Alberta? What do you think they need to accomplish? Meanwhile, by the way, Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand is calling for de-escalation. She posted on X in the aftermath. De-escalation must be the priority. We urge all parties to refrain from actions that further destabilize the region. And now, as I mentioned, Israeli Emergency Services says 7 people have been injured in retaliatory attacks by Iran. Now, Anita Anand, Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister, did speak to CBC's The House. That interview will air tomorrow. And in it, she said, we as a country always prefer negotiated solutions, and we encourage parties to get to the table. Anand said Canada believes the best path to sustainable peace and security in the region are talks between the United States and Iran, and the Canadian federal government would like to see those talks continue. We're getting you the latest on this. Now, earlier today, Daria Dolzikova spoke to CBC. She's a nuclear weapons expert and a senior research fellow at the Royal United Service Institute, which is a UK defense and security think tank. And this morning, she explained to CBC's Natasha Fada that it's hard to assess the full impact of the Israeli attack in Iran right now.
You can't even say early days, we're in the early hours of a developing situation, one that's likely to continue for some time. What we do know, as was mentioned, is that the Iranian facility at Natanz was targeted. That facility is a decently large complex. It's got a few different sites there. It houses the largest enrichment facility in Iran. We don't know the extent of the damage, but potentially that could have put a significant dent into the program. Having said that, that's not the only enrichment facility in Iran. The Fordo facility is deeply hardened and buried, and it's a decently large enrichment facility as well. There have been some reports in the last hour or so that there might be efforts by the Israelis to target that as well. But again, that's very hard to confirm at the moment, so we're just in a very developing situation, hard to assess.
For those who watch the story from a distance, it's hard to visualize where these nuclear facilities are. I mean, some of them are burrowed into mountainsides throughout Iran. So just give us a sense of how difficult it is to get the information out, to get a sense of the damage that's being done, and also the work that is being done within these facilities.
Sure. So we have a decent sense of where a lot of Iran's nuclear facilities are, particularly those that house fissile material, so the material that would go inside of a nuclear weapon. Because Iran is it's a member to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, it has a comprehensive safeguards agreement with the International Atomic Energy Agency. So we have a decent picture of at least the nuclear fuel cycle in Iran, where the fissile material is going through the various processes. What there are challenges around in terms of information are certain other aspects of the Iranian nuclear program, including any activities that might be relevant to any weaponization efforts inside of Iran. So that we have a lot less sight of. Intelligence communities might have a better sense, but in the public it's a little bit harder to map where that activity, if any, is happening.
Well, yesterday, the UN's nuclear watchdog's Board of Governors declared Iran in breach of its non-proliferation obligations for the first time in 20 years. And Dolcikova said that the latest intelligence assessment from the US is that Iran has not made a decision to weaponize its nuclear program, but that it might be engaging in activities that would put it in a better position if it decided to do so. And again, we are showing you a live shot, or footage rather, from Tel Aviv right now. And the Israeli military says that dozens of Iranian missiles were fired at Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. So that's the latest air raid sirens sounding across Israel today following an Iranian missile attack. This comes after Israel launched attacks on Iran's nuclear and military structures last night. And this is likely to be overshadowing the G7 summit that starts this weekend, Sunday, in Kananaskis, Alberta. Other issues as well that the G7 leaders are hoping to talk about. So we're asking you, what do you think they need to accomplish? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca. Joining me now is UBC Professor Yves Tiberghien. He's a political science professor and senior fellow at the Asia Pacific Foundation of Canada. Good afternoon, Professor Tiberghien. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Michelle. It's a pleasure joining you.
This is very much a developing story and a fast-moving one right now. But in your assessment, how much will these renewed tensions become a focus at the G7 summit this weekend?
It will be a focus for sure. It won't be the only one. We will have President Zelensky coming and talking a lot about Ukraine. We have China in the news. We have a lot of other issues, the trade war, the first time the Korean president will show up and so on. But this will be a big item because it has the potential to escalate and to escalate very badly, depending how far Israel goes and then how far the retaliations from Iran go. But if Israel is trying to go for regime change, or if Iran decides to retaliate by blocking the Strait of Hormuz or moving to very, very dangerous scenarios, then it's very bad. And so the G7 probably will try to de-escalate, to cool things down, to try to contain things.
Yeah, and that's been the point that Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister has tried to make, writing again on X, de-escalation must be the priority. We urge all parties to refrain from actions that further destabilize the region. But you hear the language, right? It's quite strong language from both sides. What can leaders do at the G7 summit to try and achieve that, to try and de-escalate these tensions?
So the main problem here is that Israel has a different view of the risks involved and the risk it's willing to take than the rest of the world, right? Because for Israel, it's about survival. They see the potential nuclear program in Iran as a fundamental threat to their existence. So they're willing to go very, very far, and they're doing it. And they're striking to the heart of the regime, right? They have killed a lot of the leaders, military leaders and scientists and so on. So this is a very, very painful blow for Iran. And so what is unknown now is whether Iran will be able to stay strategic and do a targeted response, or whether Iran will escalate. Now, we hear a lot of bombing and missiles arriving in Israel. I assume that most of them are being shot down by the Iron Dome. Israel is extremely well defended against missiles and drones, but there is risk nonetheless. So for the G7 is trying to slow down or maybe to stop this war from escalating. But again, the incentives are very different. Israel now has disabled all the air defenses of Iran and has a chance to really destroy the entire nuclear program and maybe the military establishment of Iran. It's going to be very hard to tell them to stop.
Let me just jump in. My guest is UBC Professor Yves Tiberghien. Let's go live now to a speaker on CBC News Network.
Fully cooperate with the IAEA to urgently remedy its non-compliance with its safeguards agreement. Finally, The latest dangerous escalation follows some significant diplomatic developments. Talks between Iran and the U.S. were to resume in Oman this weekend. I encourage such diplomatic efforts to continue. A peaceful resolution through negotiations remains the best means to ensure the inclusively peaceful nature of Iran's nuclear program. We must, at all costs, avoid a growing conflagration that would have enormous global consequences. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank Ms. DiCarlo for her briefing, and I now give the floor to Mr. Rafael Mariano Grossi.
Thank you very much, Madam President. Thank you for the opportunity, Madam Undersecretary General and dear colleagues. It is a pleasure for us to be able to contribute to this very important debate today. Early this morning, the IAEA was informed of the military operation launched by Israel, which includes, as Undersecretary General DiCarlo was just informing, which includes attacks on nuclear facilities in the Islamic Republic of Iran. As I reported this morning to the IAEA Board of Governors, we have been in permanent contact with the Iran Nuclear Regulatory Authority to ascertain the status of relevant nuclear facilities and to assess any wider impacts on nuclear safety and security. Iran confirmed that initially only the Natanz fuel enrichment plant had been attacked in today's strikes. This facility contains the fuel enrichment plant and the pilot fuel enrichment plant. At Natanz, the above ground part of the pilot fuel enrichment plant, where Iran was producing uranium enriched up to 60% uranium-235, has been destroyed. Electricity infrastructure at the facility, an electrical substation, main electric power supply building, emergency power supply and backup generators have also been destroyed. There is no indication of a physical attack on the underground cascade hole containing part of the pilot fuel enrichment plant and the main fuel enrichment plant. However,
all right, we will continue to listen in to the comments and the statements being made at the UN.
You were listening there to the IAEA director, the International Atomic Energy Agency director, Rafael Mariano Grossi, speaking there about what was destroyed in Iran from the Israeli strike. And earlier you heard from the Undersecretary of the United Nations, Rosemary DiCario. So again, this is a very fast-moving story right now. The UN conference is calling for de-escalation. And so we're asking you as well. This comes just before the G7 summit begins in Canada. Canada hosts the G7 summit in Kananaskis, Alberta. A number of issues will be raised, including these increased tensions, as well as we heard from our guest there, Ukraine, the trade war with the United States right now as well. So we're asking you, amid those tensions, amid those issues, what should be accomplished? What do you expect the G7 leaders to accomplish at these meetings? And our number again, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can also hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Our email is bctoday@cbc.ca. And Yves Tiberghien is my guest, political science professor at UBC. And Professor, we have heard as well the response today from U.S. President Donald Trump. He's spoken to this, saying he knew that the Israeli attack was coming. Today, he urged Iran to make a deal over its nuclear program, saying that there was still time for the country to prevent further conflict. What do you see, or do you expect his approach will be in the coming days?
Well, so President Trump remains the only person who could stop the conflict. I believe that he has said all along that he did not support attacking Iran. He was supporting a negotiation. As soon as the attack took place, he said two things. He said, number one, Iran now is being hit and should immediately come to the table and have better conditions. And by the way, Israel has the best weapons from the US and they know how to use them. So I believe that now his game is to be in the back and to basically wait for Iran to call him, and possibly then he could call Israel and try to have them stop as long as Iran is ready to give a lot of concessions. That's the potential game that he's playing, but we don't know if it's too late, right? Because once Israel now is so close to a complete victory, why would they stop? And on the Iran side, having lost so many critical players in the regime and in the military, how will they stop and not retaliate, right? Now, the only good news from what I saw this morning is there were not too many civilians killed. There is a few, but it's a very, very small number. And it looks like Israel really targeted the military targets. We'll have to see then what happens on the return volleys of missiles. But here too, I assume that few Israelis will be killed. That allows us to contain the crisis. But there will be urgency for the G7 partners to talk with President Trump to then try to have a talk with Israeli Prime Minister.
Let me touch on some of the other issues that there are before the G7 leaders. Before this, it was about how do you deal with Donald Trump, and this may still be an issue. We know that there will be no joint statement or communique at the end of the summit, as there is traditionally at the last summit in Charlevoix. That joint statement, in the end, President Trump reneged from it or pulled away from it because of this sort of tit for tat between him, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at the time, and Trump. So this time around, what is the line that Prime Minister Mark Carney needs to toe with Donald Trump?
Well, so Mark Carney got a challenge for himself. He's dealing with one of the highest intensity cocktail of geopolitical and geoeconomic crisis that any G7 had to deal with. So it's going to be very intense. Usually G7s do three things. They do global public goods. They deal with global issues. Then they do club goods, something for the G7 countries. And then there's bilaterals. And in this case, the bilaterals probably will take most of the attention. There was a bit of an informal deadline between US and Canada to reach some kind of agreement on the trade war on the sidelines of G7. We'll see if it happens. There was initially a deadline between Japan and the US to find an agreement, but I think now that's falling by the wayside. There will be a meeting between Mexico and the US. So all those bilaterals will be super high stakes. Korea and the US, first meeting between Trump and President Lee. And then there will be a meeting between Zelensky and Trump, for sure. So those bilaterals will be extremely high intensity, high speed. We'll see what happens. At the club level, most likely they will do an agreement on stabilizing again the Taiwan Strait, warning China not to do anything rash against Taiwan. There's going to be talk on critical minerals, maybe protecting their joint interest on this. Right. So there'll be a few things. And then at the global level, what they should do is the rest of G7 should, in a way, nudge the US away from destroying the global rules-based order and saving the trading system. And we'll see how far this goes, right? And then there's the risk of what President Trump could do while on Canadian soil. And we'll have to see what happens, what surprises he can bring.
At the meetings or in speaking to journalists?
He has made so many disrespectful remarks about the 51st state. We'll see if he continues in that line or if he has prepared some kind of prop, right? There's a risk. You never know.
Let me just take this call here because we are asking our audience, what do you think the leaders need to accomplish at the G7 summit? And you talked about that, the bilateral discussions that need to happen and the 51st state comments. That's led to, Mark Carney's various actions, including the One Canadian Act. But let's hear now from Tasha in Vancouver. who would like to talk about Canada's response or what the leaders need to do this weekend in the coming days. Tasha, good afternoon.
Thank you for having this discussion. I agree with your guest about the bilateral meetings. I think those are important, and it's a venue where, that can happen, getting everyone together. But the issue that I really hope that they'll address, but I doubt that they will, is climate change. That's and they don't talk about it or come up with solutions in any kind of meaningful way. And that's very disappointing given the state of the globe right now. And I always am skeptical about the cost of these gatherings for Canada, the cost of security. And I heard Senator Harder yesterday on Power and Politics saying, world events can impose themselves on these meetings. And we have that today with what's going on with Israel and Iran. So I find it all a big show. We have people on our streets, don't have homes, nothing to eat. You had a show yesterday about kids going hungry in the summer because there aren't school programs. I guess those are my priorities, and all of this to me is a big show.
Tasha, really interesting point there. That's Tasha in Vancouver. Let me just start with getting your response to that Yves. I'm also going to just highlight that our TV audience will be heading into a break in a moment from now. So you will be interrupted for 2 minutes, but you will be coming back to us in 2 minutes after that. But right now, Yves Tiberghien, she's saying this is all for show. What about the issue of climate change? We see, wildfires in a number of provinces right now.
Yeah, so first, I really hear Tasha's comments on the hardship faced by many families right now and the question of economic hardships. And then climate, much of Canada is under smoke right now. We face enormous fires, and that's real. And it's something that we need to act much more dramatically on. I believe that the majority of G7 agrees with Tasha here. And I'm sure there will be something in the chair statement. That's the advantage of chair statement. You don't need a full agreement. But unfortunately, the US will veto any significant action at the G7. That doesn't mean that the other countries cannot do all kinds of actions until there is a change in the US, right? So I'm still hopeful that there will be some significant action. And then finally, on diplomacy, even though it happens to happen in Canada in the midst of other great hardships right now, economic and climate and so on, I want to really emphasize how important diplomacy is right now. Because we're in the midst of a big change in the global order, we're in the midst of big conflict and tensions between great powers. And when great powers start to have misperceptions about each other, hate each other, make up stories and so on, and don't meet, then that's when war can happen. And war is much worse than paying for a summit. So we need all the diplomacy we can have. In the 1930s, the leaders did not meet, and eventually we had World War II. So we have to learn from that. But we should be able to also address priorities of people on the ground.
And tangibly, what would you be looking for coming out of the summit?
Well, there's going to be a bunch of, official agreements in the chair statement. There will be some, maybe some initiatives being launched because many things are prepared ahead of time, right? So there will be some working groups, some initiatives. But at the bilateral level, hopefully there is some good news in the US-Canada bilateral. And hopefully we see the trade war receding, right? Because the trade war is hurting Canada right now. It's getting people to be laid off. So we need action here, and that will be the most concrete. Unfortunately, 77% of Canadian exports go to the US. And we're a trading nation where trade is 60, 70% of our economy. So we have to find a way to take out those tariffs. That will have the biggest impact on the daily life of Canadians.
It's very good to speak with you today. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you very much, Michelle. It's a pleasure.
Yves Tiberghien is a political science professor at UBC and a senior fellow at the Asia Pacific Foundation. And of course, much more coverage of the G7 throughout the day on CBC and on the breaking, developing story out of the Middle East. Stay with us. This is CBC News. It's 12:30 now, and coming up in our next half hour, we're going to take your calls on Father's Day and fatherhood, asking you, what does modern fatherhood look like for you? What's your experience? How has it changed you? How has parenting changed you? I'd love to hear from you. I'll be joined by comedian and father Ivan Decker here in studio. Right now, it is 12:31, time for a CBC News update, and here's Stephanie Mercier.
Good afternoon. In the news, the BC Wildfire Service says crews are expecting significant rainfall this weekend. They hope it will help with the efforts to fight at least one fire in the northeast. In a video update, the service says the so-called Pocket Knife Creek wildfire has grown significantly over the past few days. It's now listed at about 1,500 square kilometers in size. It's one of about 100 fires actively burning in the province. Meanwhile, smoke caused by the fires has prompted Environment Canada to issue special air quality statements covering much of the northeastern region. The warning covers areas including Fort Nelson, Peace River, Muncho Lake Park, Watson Lake, Williston, the Lakes District, Stewart-Nichaco, Prince George, McGregor, and Caribou North. And BC's Jobs Ministry says it will lead a delegation of companies to a convention in Boston next week. It says the convention is the largest ever event for biotechnology in the world. The ministry says the aim of attending is to attract more investment into the province's life sciences sector. The release says Jobs Minister Diana Gibson will be at the conference next week from Sunday until Thursday. And taking a look now at the BC weather, along the north coast, sun and cloud this afternoon, a high of 14 up to 18 inland. For the Peace region, rainy with local smoke, a high of 11. For the central interior, clouds and showers this afternoon, a high of 16. For the southeast, increasing clouds, a chance of showers or thunderstorms, and a high up to 24. For the southern interior, a mix of sun and cloud, but there is also a chance of showers and the risk of a thunderstorm, a high of 25. And along the south coast, a mix of sun and cloud with a high of 18 degrees today. And now back to Michelle Elliott and BC Today.
It's very nice to see you, Stephanie.
You as well.
I know you're a busy parent yourself.
I am.
And so, any plans for Father's Day?
Oh, I think we will definitely try and celebrate all the dads in our family.
Absolutely.
My dad, my father-in-law, and of course my own husband.
Yeah, exactly. You have to name
Lots of dads, all of them.
Yeah, same here. Same here, absolutely. And well-deserved.
Mm-hmm.
Nice to see you. Thanks so much. That's Stephanie Mercier in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. You're with BC Today here on CBC. We're live on Radio 1, CBC Television, live streaming as well on the CBC News app and on the CBC British Columbia YouTube page. And lots more on the day's top stories on the afternoon shows in your region. On CBC Radio in Metro Vancouver, here's what's on the coast.
Hi, Michelle. It's Amy Bell filling in once again for Gloria Makarenko. And coming up on our Friday show, we're going to talk about Richmond RCMP's new summer campaign that hopes to reduce impaired driving, not just on the roads, but also on the water. And just ahead of Father's Day, we are going to celebrate dad fashion. Get everybody's definition, whether it's socks and sandals or fanny packs or fleece jackets. We'll see what everybody thinks about dad fashion. On the Coast is on the air starting at 3 o'clock, and I hope you can join us.
Thank you so much, Amy. That's Amy Bell hosting On the Coast this afternoon on CBC Radio 1 in Metro Vancouver. .35 now here on BC Today, and we are looking ahead to Father's Day on Sunday. Happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. And we're talking about modern fatherhood and asking you how fatherhood has evolved. What does modern fatherhood look like for you. We want to hear about your experience and how has fatherhood changed you? I'd love to hear from you. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone, or you can email bctoday@cbc.ca. We do have a BC Today prize pack for one of our callers. Hopefully a dad. Joining me now is Ivan Decker, a father, comedian, Juno Award-winner. You would know him from CBC Radio's The Debaters, from his Netflix special, among many things. Ivan, happy Father's Day and welcome.
Thank you. Yes, it's great to be here. I hope I win the prize pack. I'm probably not eligible. Yeah, I got to go outside phone.
Yeah,
okay.
There are rules. But it's funny because On the Coast is going to be talking about dad fashion. And I have to say, you have shown up. Like, you've got this gorgeous blazer on.
Thank you. Yes,
very dapper.
I like to dress up, wear a jacket. I never had a job where I got to do that before, so I take advantage whenever I can.
Listen, I was so excited to hear you were coming in.
Thank you.
I know you as one of Vancouver's funniest people, but also to be able to talk to you about being a dad.
Yeah, it's a wild time. It all happens so fast. I don't know what day it is or what time it is anymore. I was parking outside and the sign was like, "Oh, you can park here after 3 o'clock." And I was like, "Oh, it feels like it's after 3 o'clock." It was 10:30 in the morning.
Yeah, when do you try to catch sleep when you can?
Yes.
Right? Tell me about the moment you learned, I'm going to be a dad.
Oh, it was all very exciting, of course. You know, it doesn't seem real. It all seems very surreal in the lead up. And then, of course, there's so many doctor's appointments and it all kind of comes in. And then when it actually happens, that's like the go time. You drive to the hospital, you have the whole situation. Of course, in the lead up to you take prenatal classes and they all say, like, it's not like the movies, it's going to be a long thing and it's going to be bad. And then literally our first child was like, the water's broken, you got to get there, go now. And I had to drive quickly.
It was like the movie.
It was just like there was a cop, he was like waving. I was like, I got to go. I was like pointing at my wife.
With a happy ending, of course.
Yes, of course.
Wonderful. Well, let's just take a call here. Oh my gosh, lots of people want to call in.
Oh, very exciting.
Chat with you about fatherhood.
Some dads.
My guest is Ivan Decker, comedian and father. Let us know, what does modern fatherhood look like for you? 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690. And let us know, too, how has fatherhood changed you? We're going to talk about that because I know parenthood, it changes a lot for you. You lose track of the day, the time, for one thing. But Chris is on the line in Victoria. First up. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Michelle. How are you?
I am fine. Thanks for calling in. Happy Father's Day.
Yeah, thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I definitely think that I have a 8-year-old daughter. She is the love of my life outside of my wife. And I think that being a father has really been one of the biggest joys, privileges, and challenges in my life so far.
Yeah.
I think modern fatherhood is changed a little bit just in the fact that I think that dads are more present and they're making an effort to, be as involved as the moms are and be an equal partner in the parenting, which I think is hugely important and adds just a ton more value to the job and life of being a parent.
Yeah. Do you have any plans for the weekend, Chris?
I think that we are going to go to a beach and we're going to have some family over on Sunday night so we can have multi-generations of dads all in the same place to celebrate. And
very cool.
Yeah, basically just enjoy some well-deserved family time.
It really is. And a happy Father's Day too. You're right. The greatest privilege, joy, and challenge as well. All the best to your family. That's Chris in Victoria. If I were to ask you what modern fatherhood looks like, what would you say, Ivan?
I'd say it's different now than it was. I think both parents or all parents have much more information than they've ever had. There's so much more. I feel like the generations past, to be a father, it was like you got to teach them to tie a tie when they're 18, and then and then you're like, all right, see you later.
Nothing until then.
Yeah, but now there's so many you get from social media, all these things. Yeah. I learned you're not supposed to say I'm proud of you, which is like it's like, oh, you can't say that. Don't say I'm proud of you. Yeah. Which I'm like, I don't think that was the problem with the current generation. But you're supposed to say, I hope you're proud of yourself, which you can't say without sounding sarcastic.
Yeah, you're right.
If my 2-year-old goes on the slide on his own at a playground, I can't be like, hey, I hope you're proud of yourself.
Yeah, that sounds backhanded. I don't know. Yes, I feel that I've heard you're not supposed to say you're proud of them, but you're supposed to say I'm proud of your hard work or something like that. Make it about the work that they've put in.
Yeah, there's a lot of or don't say be careful.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to say, this looks risky. And I'm like, that's the same.
How do you navigate all of that? Because it's true. I mean, I am also inundated with said information. How do you navigate all that?
I think you have to understand that the social media content engine is designed for one purpose, and that is interaction. And so it doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be right. It just has to be something people will click on and share. So the more outlandish, the better in certain circumstances.
Sure.
Especially it's like, are you doing this with your diapers? You should be wrapping your babies up in cabbage leaves. I'm a pediatrician. And everyone will be like, I got to share this. Send this to my friends.
And sales of cabbage leaves.
Yeah, exactly. Someone if anybody does that, I want some credit.
It is interesting because there's so much information. What do you pay attention to? What do you not? And then you meet with other parents too. And then it's like, it's the same thing.
Absolutely.
What are you doing? What are
People's
you doing
lived
wrong?
experience. I think that's really good. It's good to connect and share, talk to other parents about what their experiences are. But even that, also, you have to understand that their sample size is pretty small from a scientific perspective. People have 1 or 2 children. It's like you would like something with a broader, more data.
You think, exactly. According to my 2 kids.
Yes.
And let's just take another call here. I have so many more questions for you. But Peter in White Rock, hello. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
Yeah, and what's changed for you?
Well, a couple of points. One thing that's changed is when my first daughter was born. This is decades ago, and I would take her down to Kitts Beach, and in the baby carriage, and almost every other parent there was a mother. Now you see at least as many fathers as mothers with their babies, and that's such a great change.
Yeah.
Another thing is that what patriarchy has done in the past, anyway, has separated fathers from children. So the fathers and the children miss out on the wonderful connections they could have. So it's great to see that kind of change taking place.
Absolutely. And there's a closeness and as well as an ability to show emotion.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, that's celebrated.
And masculinity is not just like, not crying and shaking your son's hand once in a while. Get together.
Exactly.
You're allowed to feel things.
You are. That's
you
my
are?
big...
I know it's very new. This is new information. I'm having trouble with it as well.
It's kind of human, I think, too. Actually.
Yes, allegedly.
Oh, you're so right, Peter. Thank you very much. That's such a good point. The closeness and the humanity and the emotion that you're able to show now. I know it's such a good example for your kids.
Yes.
As well. For yourself, do you show emotion? Like, do you?
Yes.
To what
I show
extent?
emotion, and I also show mistakes. I think that's another big thing.
Oh.
When I mess up or if I do something incorrectly, I think especially for little kids, like they think their parents are going to be able to do everything perfectly all the time.
Yeah.
And like I'll try to fix a Duplo that breaks, and be like, Daddy can't do it. I can't do it. I need your help.
Yeah.
And something like that. And I think they seem thrilled about that. Showing a humanized side of that too, of like I'm not good at everything.
That's so true. And I think it just gives them permission to also make mistakes.
Yeah.
And not be afraid of it.
And sometimes they feel good if you can be like, you're better than me at this. They're like,
at the Duplo.
As long as they don't hold it over you later.
Yeah.
Like, you're terrible at Duplo. I'm not listening to you. Why would I go to bed?
Your record on Duplo, not so good.
Yeah.
Not so good.
I have other skills.
My guest is Ivan Decker. I don't know if you noticed, but he's a comedian and a father as well, award-winning comedian. So let us know. You can join in the conversation asking you, what does modern fatherhood look like for you? And how has fatherhood changed you? Give us a call, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Our email is bctoday@cbc.ca. Just have an email saying they're enjoying the laughter on the radio.
Oh, nice.
I think that's a very important thing.
That's good.
I appreciate that. Speaking of laughter, you're a comedian, so this is something I'm a big fan of comedy, of stand-up comedy. So I watch a lot, and I notice, families and personal relationships tend to provide fodder for material. Is that something you're finding?
Yeah, definitely. I think that as much as sometimes things can be stereotypical, but it's like a lot of times it is because people connect to it.
Yeah.
It's because it's true. Sometimes you have something like, the tired dad trope, or the
yes.
I dress very poorly. Don't let this fool you. If I'm at home and I'm covered in different baby fluids.
And that's okay.
Yeah. But anytime I dress up now, it's very funny because my son will be like, "Are you going to work?" And I'm like, "It's 11 a.m. I'm just taking the recycling
Or is it
out."
3? I don't know.
Or is it 3? I have no idea.
Are there stereotypes about dads that you are tired of, that just bug you now as a dad?
I think it's not so much stereotypes, but just like things that people think they need to do to be a dad. And like, I think I was talking about it earlier with Peter, was like, you don't have to be an emotionless brick. You don't have to be the best at everything. You don't have to be, it's good to be there. Obviously you want to be able to be available to your children and talk about things with them, but you don't have to be just like, nothing affects me. I'm fine. No problem.
Yeah.
It's good. And then you try to have these moments. Also, everything you expect, nothing will happen the way that you think it's going to happen. Like I tried to have a real fatherhood. My son was having a tantrum and I leaned in to be like, "Listen, I know you're having all the stuff I learned on the internet. You're having some feelings. If you want to talk about it, I'm here. I just want you to know that." And then he leaned in and he just bit me and then ran away. So that didn't work at all.
But it was a good effort.
Yes, I tried. I think that's what's important.
That is very effort. A for effort there. We have an email from Lenora who writes about a window into modern fatherhood. And Lenora writes, "A 9th grade girl fell off her horse and sprained her wrist the night before her poetry in your pocket lesson in English, grade 9 English. And the morning of the class arrived, students pulled out their poems out of their pockets and read them to their classmates. Lots of laughs, especially when kids admitted they had Googled short poems. But not our student with her sprained wrist. She pulled out her poem, read it beautifully, all 6 complex verses of it. And when she handed it in, I saw the cramped, quote, dad handwriting. And I found a lump in my throat. Her dad was a very hardworking police officer who found the time, and I would guess offered to copy out his daughter's long and lovely poem, exemplifying a modern dad. Oh my goodness, I just got a lump reading that. Thank you very much for that story. Taking the time and helping your kid out in those moments when they feel like I'm all alone here. I need help. Let's take another call here from Roy in Vancouver, again asking you, what does modern fatherhood look like for you? How has fatherhood changed you? We have a BC Today prize pack to give away to one lucky caller as well. 1-800-825-5950. 604-669-3733. And Roy is on the line in Vancouver. Hello, Roy. Thanks for calling in.
Hello, how are you?
I am just fine. And tell us about your experience.
So for me, I'm not actually a father, but I'd like to talk about my father.
Yes, absolutely.
And so modern fatherhood is obviously a bit of a challenge because we all come from different backgrounds and all over the place. But I think, good fathers could make good men, right? And a lot of things are done by good men in society. And now I am 29 myself, and I'm looking at having kids in a year or two with my wife, and I'm a tradesman. I'm also a very skinny and small guy. I'm 115 pounds at, 29. And growing up, my dad was a little tough on me, but he told me, there's going to be guys who are a lot bigger than you, and, you're going to have to be able to hold your own. And he was tough back now. And I'm really glad he was, because now being in the trade, there's some guys that give you a hard time, or they look hammer, and I can hold my own. And I could do that thanks to him being there to support me, but also pushing me a little bit. And without him, I would not be where I am today. And I can never thank him enough for that.
Oh, my goodness, Roy. That is so lovely.
I just, for me, my dad, he knows because he's also a small guy. He's a bus driver for TransLink, right? He drives it right downtown. And he's one, every day he tells me stories when people get on his bus and how nice he is to them. And I think he drives the number 20 downtown. He tells me about some people get on the bus, need help. And And it just, these kind of stories, and they kind of leave me, sometimes when I'm working with a customer, or, if I'm fixing a car, because I'm a mechanic's apprentice, and I'll be, there'll be a lady who comes in, and I try and make things work for her, but there, a lot of the problem solving and skills that I need in my trade, I wouldn't have without my dad, and I cannot thank him enough for that, because he, growing up, he taught me how to use the tools, how to have the work ethic, how things get tough, and you're sitting there, and the car's in a million pieces, and you can't figure it out, and you're like, man, what am I going to do? And you really want to just give up, and he's sitting there, he's telling me, he's like, this is where it really counts. This is where it matters that you don't stop, right? You could always go over and ask him for help, but this is the point where it matters that you don't, and you figure it out on your own, and you push through, and you be tough. And without him, I would not have that mentality or the ability to push through and problem solve. And I know that, with modern parenting, I can only imagine it's a million times harder, because they just didn't have the technology or the smartphones or any of this kind of stuff that they have now when they were kids. So it's a whole new skill set for them trying to help us troubleshoot all of these issues that just didn't exist when they were kids.
Roy, if you don't mind me asking, what's your dad's name?
His name is Roy as well.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Roy, who drives the number 20 downtown, right?
That's it, yeah.
Happy Father's Day, Roy.
I'll let him know. And for me, my dad's father passed away when he was very young. He was in a car accident. So for me, it's even more amazing to me that my dad is an amazing dad as he is, because he never got to have a dad.
Wow. Roy.
His dad was never around. So when I see him being an amazing father to me, he calls me up and I say, Dad, look, I'm suffering this problem. This is really stressing me out. He helps me with it. And the fact that he's such an amazing dad as he is, when he never got to have a father, it just blows me away how amazing of a person he is.
Oh, and I don't doubt that you will be one too. Roy, so good to hear from you. Happy Father's Day to Roy Sr., driving the number 20. All the best to you. That's Roy in Vancouver. That was so lovely. Great men make great dads. I think he started off by saying. One thing I want to just read here. We have an email from someone named Emily Decker. I don't know if you're familiar. Emily writes, I am Ivan's wife and just wanted to say that he is the absolute best father. Our boys and I are so lucky to have him. Oh.
That's nice. I'll send you the check later. Strange lady, whoever you are.
Emily, your number one fan.
That's nice.
That's really nice. I'm so glad you emailed in. Yeah, I'm just really enjoying this conversation with Ivan Decker today, comedian and father. So Roy, who just called in, is planning to become a dad and says he has a great role model in his own dad. What about for new dads? Like, what advice would you give?
Let's see. New dads. Just try to be present and it's a very wonderful. It's like the best thing that's ever going to happen to you, and also one of the most difficult things.
Yeah.
It's a very weird thing to wrap up, but it's so magical and so wonderful, and every little thing, every sound, every moment you get to spend with this little baby is incredible. And then they get older and then they start talking and they talk to you. It's weird to even have a baby that they don't have a voice, they can't talk yet. And then someday they say your name and you're like, well, this is the greatest thing. And then you have it's also this weird thing where you miss the little baby, but you love who they are.
Oh, so
becoming.
true.
And so
true.
I mean, it's indescribable. I think until you have a child, you don't understand the scope of what's happening. It really makes me, of course, appreciate my parents and all parents more. I mean, my wife's parents are fantastic as well. I'm so lucky that we live close, and that my kids get to have a relationship with their grandparents as well.
I'm the same. My dad doesn't live here, but he has been a source of advice for me all throughout, like my teenage years. He's just a wise person. And my father-in-law is a constant presence. So happy Father's Day.
Yeah.
And has a great relationship with our kids as well.
Shout out to grandfathers.
Yeah, grandfathers.
As well.
Yes, absolutely.
Thanks for having a yard, from all the millennials out there.
I heard you have some practical advice as well, though. Things like, I don't know, clipping fingernails or...
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I discovered, I don't know if people know this, but there's a lot of screen time is an issue. But one of the things that I do for cutting nails with my boys is There's a lot of compilations on YouTube of just garbage trucks picking up and dropping off garbage. No talking. There's no message behind it. It's just, hey, take a look at this awesome garbage truck.
Amazing.
And it's great. I love it. I've found a real new appreciation for garbage trucks. Because, as an adult, the garbage truck, it's loud, it wakes you up, it's in the way when you drive. There's a lot of negativity surrounding the garbage truck. To a toddler or a baby, it is like a magical, it's like a building that drives around.
Yeah.
And there's a person in there. They lift things with hydraulics. It's really the best.
This helps you clip the fingernails because they're watching.
They're just mesmerized.
And just completely engrossed in the garbage truck.
Yeah, staring at it. You could do anything.
That's a good tip.
It's good. Brush their teeth.
Clint in North Vancouver. Hi. Tell us about what modern fatherhood looks like for you.
Hi. I would say, well, when I was a kid, fatherhood back then was the mother raised the children and the father either went to work or came home and, had beers with his friends. But today you see fathers walking the children with the children in the carriers and the dad's walking, and you just know that the dad is giving the mom a break. And so modern fatherhood I just see as fathers are just now more involved. And I think that's great. I think that's great. And that fatherhood now is just, there's more involvement. So I think it's great.
It's great for everyone. Great all around for sure. Clint, thank you so much for the call.
Well,
go ahead. Yes.
Give advice. I could give advice. If
sure.
You're willing to. So my wife and I made a thing. When I came home from work, the children, we had 3 young children, all together, very close in age. The children are not allowed to talk to me. They can say hi, but they have to go upstairs for half an hour, and they have to wait until my wife and I catch up. After we catch up and after the kids stop crying, okay, because they can't talk to dad, they can come back downstairs. And I would say that just keep doing what you're doing, because when you're young, when the kids are young, you're an idol to your kids, right? But as they become teenagers, they kind of sometimes they withdraw and they just, don't want to hang out with you as much. I'm sure they do, but hang out sometimes, but they don't. So my advice is that keep loving your wife. Don't put your kids above your wife, and keep showing your kids the example of 9 to 5. And that's staying in the trenches. That's battling 9 to 5. Keep being an example.
Keep being an example of what it's like to be a good partner as well. What does a good relationship look like?
Keep loving my wife. Got it. That's weird.
Well,
that seems
not
like
harsh.
weird...
She's sending lovely emails about you. So, Cliff, thank you very much. Ivan, what a pleasure. Happy Father's Day.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
Ivan Decker.